Hello guys, Chris here and welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing a GeForce RTX 4070 Ti in Cyberpunk or Cyberbug 2077 with Ray Tracing Overdrive. This one is the Palette Game Rock Midnight Kaleidoscope version of the card. We are running it with the latest NVIDIA drivers and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups. GPU 0 resizable bar is also enabled and we got 12 GB of GDDR6X memory. And over on the left, we're pairing it with the i5 13600K clocked at 5.6 GHz on the P cores and 32 GB of DDR5 6000 MHz in dual channel. By the way, the CPU is being utilized because we got Cyberbug opened right here. Now let's go over the settings first. I'm starting at 4K resolution, then we're gonna play at 1440p, 1080p, and at the end of the video, I'm gonna do a little bit of 8K gaming on the 4070 Ti, which is not a good idea, by the way. And of course, we are using the Ray Tracing Overdrive preset. I am gonna disable DLSS first because I'm always curious to see what it can do at native resolution. Disable motion blur as well, and this is it. Path tracing is enabled right there, as you can see. On the gameplay tab, we're using high crowd density, and let's do this, my friends. Oh boy, here we go, guys. It's getting 10, 11 frames per second. That's a good improvement compared to like the 4070, I think. That was getting what, like 7 FPS? I don't remember actually. I think so, yeah. Anyways, this is completely unplayable, but completely beautiful at the same time. It's actually good for screenshots. If you just want to take screenshots using path tracing, you can position your screenshots, you know. You can drive around, see the beautiful lighting everywhere and the beautiful reflections. But yeah, if you would actually want to play the game with the RTX 4070 Ti and path tracing, it's not really possible, as you can clearly see. It's interesting though, because this is getting better performance than what I was expecting, at least back there when we were getting 12 frames per second, because the 4090 can actually do around 16, 17 frames per second using these same settings. So it's actually not that far off, is it? Anyway, this is completely horrible. Let's stop it there, okay? Now, the preset itself with Ray Tracing Overdrive does enable DLSS Super Resolution here. Surprisingly, it doesn't enable frame generation by default, which, you know, I thought it would. But let's set DLSS to quality. I think on auto, it actually sets it to performance at 4K resolution, which starts looking a little bit too bad. So I'll do quality here, disable that motion blur again, and that's it. Hopefully, we're gonna make it playable now. Oh boy. Okay. You know what? This is good. We are actually getting more than double the performance of what we were seeing previously, guys. With the DLSS, I wonder if it is because now we're not running out of VRAM, and previously we actually were. It was maxed out at 12 GB, now it's at 11 GB, so it can do a much better job at rendering those frames because it's not VRAM starved anymore. Also, I totally forgot to do this in the last video for some reason. Goodbye, Bob! Alright, El Crispo is back, don't you worry. It's not a clone of me playing this game right now. It is me, Mario. Did you watch the Mario movie, by the way? I went to the cinemas and watched it the other day with Digimon and friends. Goodbye, Bob, again. I don't know what to think about it. I think it was too short, maybe. Anyway, it's still super unplayable at around 20 frames per second on average, but 20 FPS does feel a heck of a lot better than 12 FPS, that's for sure. So, a major improvement right here, maybe with some other FSR, DLSS, why did I say FSR? DLSS settings, it will be a little bit better, including frame generation. Let's turn that on, leave DLSS on quality. You won't fool me, game, okay? It's on quality right now with frame generation enabled, and apparently we can get 30-ish frames per second. Now the problem is frame generation uses a ton of VRAM. So we might end up being VRAM bound here using these settings, guys. I think we were back when I made my first video in Cyberpunk 2077 with the RTX 4070 Ti. By the way, if you're interested in other settings and other resolutions, well, not other resolution, but other settings, other ray tracing settings and non-ray tracing settings, I'll leave a link to that video down below in the description. It still performs the same as the last time that I tested it. This video is more focused in the actual path tracing performance. I'm still gonna try it without the path tracing whatsoever for a little bit, but still, I'm gonna spend way more time here looking at these beautiful graphics, okay? And it seems like it is very playable, guys. Like, VRAM is not maxed out, surprisingly, using these settings. It might become maxed out. Okay, now it is maxed out. And it might start stuttering in just a little bit. Yep, okay, I'm starting to see some frame time issues. Goodbye, Bob, once again. Yep. I told you it was Cyberbug. A lot of people like to disagree with me, saying that this game doesn't have bugs whatsoever these days. Well, why is that? Is that supposed to happen? Maybe it is. Maybe it's something that happens very frequently in the future, but I don't know. Now, what I do know is that this is performing quite well right now. Get out of the way, please. I got the police after me. I need to go. Just gonna turn around here, see the visuals, see the FPS in this roundabout area because it is really, really intensive. But yeah, I was saying, I do know now that this is playable. It's above 30 frames per second. Yeah, the input lag sometimes, especially when it goes down into the lower 30s, it is very noticeable. But, you know, 30 FPS is not really what you want anyways, so I would just not use these settings, honestly. But if you really do want those 30 frames, it is possible with the help of frame generation at 4K resolution with DLSS quality. That's pretty impressive. Let's try balanced DLSS, see if it improves something. Ooh, balanced DLSS with frame generation, by the way. It's starting to look pretty bad in terms of the reflections, actually, and the road. The road is looking a little bit pixelated, stuttery a little bit. Yeah, I don't like that, guys. I'm just trying to see if we can get like 60 frames per second, and we can with the DLSS performance setting, which, if you remember, is the default for the Ray Tracing Overdrive preset, not with frame generation though. Oh boy, oh gosh. Okay, it's good, it's all good, it's all good. Now, at 60 frames per second or 50 to 60, I can feel a bit more input lag than usual, but it's not too terrible, honestly. I could definitely get used to it in a little bit, especially whenever it's above 60 FPS. It's not really that noticeable anyways. And since this is a single-player title, I'd be fine with frame generation. The only thing I'm not really fine with is the reflections and the pavement. It looks a little bit weird right now. Anyways, it's still a little bit stuttery, though. I'm not sure what's happening because the VRAM is not maxed out now. It's at 11 gigs. So, yeah, interesting behavior right here. Around here we're getting 60s, which is very good. But it's still not 60 plus all of the time. So, you know what? The best course of action is actually not utilizing ray tracing in this game. If you use like ultra settings with quality DLSS, no frame generation, it's the best way to play this game, I think, on this GPU. Ooh, it's actually dropping from 60 though. And oh boy, let me tell you, the input lag was actually insane previously. I just was so used to the low FPS from the previous settings that we tested that I forgot that input lag is instant, basically, whenever you're getting 60 frames per second or so without frame generation. But I could still play the game even with the input lag. It didn't really bother me too much, but this feels a lot better though. So those are fake 60 FPS that we were seeing previously, alright? I thought this was actually gonna get more FPS on ultra settings with quality DLSS. Right, let's do balanced. Balanced should give us those sweet 60 plus all of the time. But again, if you are interested in these settings that I'm testing right now without RT, there is a link down below in the description with all of that covered, okay? Just checking here if we can indeed get 60 plus FPS, and we can, using balanced DLSS at 4K resolution, which I will add looks very, very good still. Let's go back to Ray Tracing Overdrive, and with the performance DLSS, which again is the auto setting here, disable motion blur, and this is the preset, okay, without the motion blur. So they recommend these settings for you to play this game on a 4070 Ti at 4K, apparently. And to be honest, it is getting 30 plus FPS so far. That's not bad at all for what it is, you know. It's path tracing, it's super, super intensive. It's kind of like next-gen technology, basically. And the performance DLSS, I will say, it looks a little bit weird on the road once again. But it looks a little bit better than when we had frame generation enabled on like balanced, for example. So it's okay. It's okay. It's still stuttering a little bit. I'm not sure what that's about. Again, like the VRAM isn't maxed out. Maybe it is, and it's just under-reported right there on the on-screen display. I don't know, but it's playable this way. It's not the best experience, obviously, for that. Again, you already know 4K Ultra with balanced DLSS is the best way to go. But you know, if you want to experience some path tracing with 30 FPS, you could now lock it to 30, not have massive input lag, and make the game still look pretty decent, especially on a smaller monitor. Let's disable DLSS now and try it out at the 1440p resolution next. Here we go, 2560 by 1440, still everything the same over here with path tracing and everything. And, ooh. Alright, it's not too bad. I mean, we were seeing like 10 to 12 frames per second previously, right? At 4K res, native. And now it's getting 20s. 20 is much better, right? I guess I could play like this for about 2 minutes before I got a headache and never touched this game again. It's dropping from 20 right now. It's very similar to what we saw at 4K using DLSS on quality without frame generation, right? Quality DLSS now at 1440p resolution puts us... Oh, what the hell, dude? Holy crap, people are just crazy here. We gotta see Jack, by the way. I haven't seen that boy in a while. Let's go down here. Here it is. Beautiful Jack in all its glory. They made a graffiti in his honor, my friends. Because, you know, he is from the GTA 5 generation, so 2013. This game is in 2077. Of course, Jack died at this point, you know. But maybe there are some robots around that can remind us of Jack. Now, I gotta say that quality DLSS at 1440p does look very impressive, guys. And I wouldn't really have a problem in terms of visuals of playing this game like this. But again, if you have the option of setting it to ultra without ray tracing whatsoever and playing at 60 plus all of the time, I would just take that. Even with DLSS maybe, because DLSS sometimes looks a little bit better in this game than native resolution. It's not running out of VRAM anymore. It's not stuttering anymore. I haven't seen a single stutter here at 1440p. It's at 9 gigabytes of usage as well. So, very playable. Can we get 60s though? Let's see. Balanced DLSS puts us in the 60s, but it is dropping right now. Yep, 50s. Okay, not good enough still. And performance DLSS now can actually get to 60 plus FPS, but the road is starting to look really bad actually at this point. I wouldn't really use performance DLSS at 1440p. Balanced is... it's okay. Especially on ultra settings without ray tracing, because if you disable ray tracing and the reflections on the ground disappear, it starts looking a little bit better with DLSS than with RT on, interestingly enough. It's just because with DLSS enabled, the ray tracing reflections on the ground are a little bit lower quality, and you can notice that on like balanced DLSS at 1440p and like performance DLSS or even balanced DLSS at 4K as well. Now, what about DLSS super resolution set to quality and that frame generation? Oh my god, stop setting this to auto, I swear to god, what the hell is wrong with this? Okay. It's all good now. frame generation, quality DLSS. It's looking pretty soft right now, but it's doable on a smaller monitor, like a 27-inch monitor at 1440p would look pretty decent. And it is getting the 60 plus FPS all of the time, so you know what, for a GPU that's marketed at 1440p gaming, it's doing a pretty good job in path tracing. I mean, it looks alright, but it's a bit too soft to my taste. You could probably increase the sharpness a little bit here. Like 0.40, for example. Yeah, that looks a little bit better for sure. Also, if you're wondering, native resolution at 1440p without DLSS, but with frame generation, looks a little bit better, and it performs below 60, so I would still not use that. My train of thought is, if I want more FPS, I will enable DLSS quality before I enable the frame generation, because it does look better, alright? I think it's time to wreck this car. What do you think, guys? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I said it's time to wreck this car. There we go, there we go. Alright, goodbye, Mr. Bob. Also, I just included another little emoji in the channel for the channel members, you know, and it's a Bob emoji. It's very fun. You should take a look at it. And please, channel members, comment the Bob emoji in the comment section right now. Alright, next up, let's go down to 1080p resolution, set it to Ray Tracing Overdrive without DLSS and without the motion blur. Alright, we're finally getting 30 plus, guys. I think the 4070 non-TI version didn't really get 30 plus all of the time here at 1080p using these settings. So it's great to see this GPU having such a big performance bump over it. It's also a super expensive GPU, of course, so yeah. But this should have been the RTX 4080, maybe with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. The RTX 4080 should have been like the 4080 Ti with like 20 gigabytes of VRAM. That's just my opinion, you know. And the 4070 should have been the 4060, maybe 4060 Ti, you know, but it is what it is. But yeah, this is super impressive that we're running full path tracing at the moment at native 1080p with 30 plus FPS all of the time, in real time, you know. Before the RTX GPUs were out, this would have been an impossible thing to do. Like, actual GTX 1080 Ti's, for example, would probably get, what, like 2 FPS? And this is getting 40 almost on average. Now let's enable that quality DLSS. I'm gonna turn up the sharpness a little bit as well because it's 1080p resolution. Wow, that's actually enough for us to get 60 plus all of the time. And here I was thinking that 4070 Ti is a 1440p GPU. Turns out it's a 1080p GPU for path tracing. You know, it's a very, very different thing from the normal games that we're used to. Or maybe not. Like, some recent titles actually do perform worse than this game with path tracing, which is very interesting. Whoa! What the hell? What was that? Oh man, this is so fun. Every single time I hit Bob, a different thing happens here in Cyberpunk. Oh boy. Oh, there he is again, stuck in his umbrella. Can we get him out of there? I don't think so. We need like a truck or something to do that. Alright, almost 69 on average, by the way. That's very nice. I'm not sure if it dropped from 60. I wasn't really paying attention there, by the way. But I can say this is a pretty solid experience when it comes to smoothness and input lag and stuff like that. Obviously, we're not using frame generation, so input lag is great. Speaking of frame generation, now I'm curious. What can it do with frame generation enabled? Quality DLSS. Oh, it's really soft, guys. 100 FPS, though. 100 FPS is very good. 55 there. Okay, a little bit better looking now. Holy crap. Oh, is that smooth? Alright. Oh, stuttered a little bit there. Probably loading something, I guess. But yeah, on a high refresh rate monitor, this would be fantastic. Although, I would still not consider it, because I'd much rather play this game with like 4K high settings with 60 plus FPS or 1440p ultra settings with 60 plus FPS than this. Just for fun as well, let's disable the DLSS and have frame generation enabled. This is 1080p with FG. Ooh, that is huge input lag compared to previously. Actually stabilized a little bit. Maybe it was just the beginning, you know, while applying frame generation. Now it's okay. Alright, this is a very beefy car. Ooh, we can actually destroy all of Bob's things, except for the umbrella, of course, with this car. That's awesome, and Bob is dead once again. Goodbye, Bob. Now, let's go back to ray tracing. I'm actually gonna start with performance, DLSS, and turn off the DLSS frame generation. We don't need all of this sharpness because now we're gonna play at 8K resolution, my friends. Here we go. 7680 by 4320 is now the resolution, using the same path trace, ray tracing, everything with RT Overdrive. Performance DLSS, no frame generation, disable motion blur as well. Oh boy! No, it cannot handle it. Maybe it's still applying. I don't know. No, it's not applying, guys. It is actually getting 2 FPS because the VRAM is completely saturated at this point. What about ultra performance? Now it's a question of reducing the internal resolution to the point where it isn't going to be VRAM limited anymore, or 2 VRAM limited. Yeah, this doesn't do anything. The RAM usage is back to normal, isn't it? Now it's a little bit higher than normal. I think normal would be like 12, 13 gigabytes. It's using 16, so it's still heavily running out of VRAM, but not as much as previously, so we can achieve 11 frames per second. And lastly, frame generation enabled. Ultra performance DLSS, why not, right? And I think it's gonna crash, guys. And the reason is frame generation, as I told you, uses a lot more VRAM than the native resolution or the DLSS. So yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing here. VRAM usage is going up to 21.5, 22 gigabytes of usage, the RAM usage actually. It's still going up by a little bit. It just cannot keep up whatsoever. And now you can see all the individual frames from frame generation as well. And they don't look good whatsoever at this resolution settings. Yep, and it gets 3 FPS. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you learned something or found it entertaining at the least. Let me know if you are playing this game with path tracing and the RTX 4070 Ti, and let me know your experiences down below in the comments. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.